We, especially since you're sitting down and getting quiet, we especially want to recognize our sponsor and their generous gift at everybody's chair.
You'll turn it on?
Okay. So thank you. Please notice the chocolate. All right, everyone, we're starting officially now, so if you can tone it down just a little bit. Welcome to the annual UTC meeting. We especially express our gratitude for all of you, to all of you for participating. We'd like to acknowledge that we have many VIPs from universities, the media, several key legislators here today, and of course all of you. As important as all of the famous and important people are, we all know that nothing would happen without all of us, so thank you. We would like to begin the meeting by inviting Jeff Jones up here to run us through the official business portion. And Jeff is our corporate, he's the UTC board secretary, so Jeff, if you're ready. We'll, following Jeff, we'll invite Rich Nelson. He is the president of UTC and the CEO, for his CEO outlook. And then following Rich, I'll give a brief chairman's outlook. Jeff Jones.
Good afternoon. We have some business that we do at this meeting every year. UTC is a Utah nonprofit corporation, and in order to do what we need to do to maintain that status, we need to have a vote from the members of the association today with regard to the officers and trustees for 2015. On the screen is a slate of industry trustees for 2015. You'll notice in bold those who are new trustees. If we can have your attention and have a vote for all of you who are members of UTC, all of you that can vote in favor of this slate of trustees, please say aye. Any opposed, nay? Thank you. This is for your information. These are the trustees that were elected last year. They served for a term of 2 years, and they will serve during the course of this year. This again is informational. Please note that the trustees also include a large group of very able and active participants from academia and from the state's economic development organizations. Here is a list of the officers and executive committee members for the 2016 years. Again, you'll note in bold those that are new, either officers or executive committee members. Can I have a vote in favor of these? All of you that can vote in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, nay. Thank you. As a matter of information, you'll note that the UTC has 4 active committees. The audit committee, the nominating committee, a compensation committee, and the 2015 Hall of Fame selection committee. These committees are appointed by the board, and again, this is for your information. Lastly, we have 2 PACs. One is the Tech PAC, which supports and advocates for various legislation and other initiatives that we deem to be valuable and important for the industry. The other is the Workforce Foundation. That is the PAC that actively works on STEM and other related initiatives that are beneficial for the industry as a whole. Again, this is for your information today. Thanks very much for your help and participation.
So how many of you noticed the annual report going back for the last 12 months and what that represents in the state? I mean, it is just percolating. It's spectacular. We're not just growing and thriving. I don't know if there's another place in the country that has this kind of, as the cover says. In fact, I'd encourage you to pull out our annual report. I'm going to use it. the perfect positive storm for growth. Where else in the country is this happening like this? And there may be some pockets, but we should really take this opportunity and grow it even more. And that's how I've framed my remarks today. It's not new to you. Shh. Thank you very much. Give me 8 more minutes and I'll be done. Thanks. So your issue is a capacity problem. Our colleges and universities and technology ATCs aren't producing anywhere close to the kind of talent that you need. Recent projections from Hill Air Force Base have stated that we will take every graduate in a technical field for years to come. We'll take them all. I don't know what the 5,000 tech companies are going to do, and others beyond that, and then the tech talent within your offices if you're not in technology. Huge issue, as we had a board meeting on this today. So recently I had my thinking reframed of really where UTC, your trade association, your community should go. It was an EC meeting, executive committee meeting, and frankly, our executive committee, and you can see who those folks are in the annual report, just said, you got to think bigger. We aren't going to get there with going after an engineering initiative of $1 million increase or $2 million or $2.5 million if we really stretched it. We need to go after $20 million. Well, I see a number of our legislative friends here today. Huge contribution to this state. You should respect them. They shouldn't be in the bottom 25% of whatever it is that they are doing an amazing job for between $10,000 and $15,000 a year. They live this. They breathe this. They're great, great contributors, and we'll recognize them here in a minute. But we need to think bigger. So just one of the 50 issues that we really vetted that were our issues around our 3 priorities that you can see in the annual report. Talent shortage. All of our big 10 highest priorities were around talent shortage. I want to just illustrate how this legislature is functioning, how they make you a priority, and why we're recognizing them today. And so we're going to go over about 4 or 5 of the pieces of legislation that tie into this group that we're going to thank today. So in December, this had gotten out of hand. So we invited our CEOs. Many of you came, and we invited our senior HR executives, senior vice presidents, to come to a focus group. 49 came, representing 30 companies, professionally facilitated. And basically, they said, talent is our issue. That was no surprise. And we said, tell us what your pain is. And they said, stealing talent and having to find talent, exporting talent out of state. We don't want to do that. And so we had them give us their pain point. How many openings have you got that you can't fill? Just those 30 companies in that room in December had 1,500 openings. Now, we've got 5,000 tech companies in the state, let alone those that have tech infrastructure beyond that we need to fuel. So the engineering initiative, which has been championed by some great leaders. I saw this from last year. This was our legislative breakfast. We had Senate Pro Tem Kurt Bramble, but Becky Lockhart has been such a big part of our community as the speaker, and it was stunning that she came down with a rare form of cancer that took her life. But these legislators do so much for our industry. But want to just talk about some of those successes. Engineering initiative, so our executive committee said we need to ratchet this up capacity-wise at 20 million. We're not scratching the surface. And to get that for ongoing funds, we need to make the case of the 738 million of new money, we need 20. Well, I know that my legislative friends would not have smiled on that we can't surprise them with that. We need to build our case with data going forward. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're in the process of doing over the coming months. And so we brought forward still a very bold request, 5 million. We've never asked for that, of ongoing funds so we could hire talent, faculty, to produce computer science and engineering grads. And the legislature responded, 4.5 million, 90% of that number, 3.5 million of it ongoing to create a new pool of talent of 250 new computer science and engineering grads starting in 4 years. This isn't a cost center, this is a profit center. And I'm kind of selling my legislative friends here. They've heard this before. Some of the other high priorities we're involved with, and we'll highlight with these legislative champions today. Strengthening college and career readiness. $400,000. We have 850 counselors in the middle schools and high schools, but they don't know this piece of it. They don't know the college and career readiness. They are so buried with their workload. No knock on them. So $400,000, bold idea by Representative Patrice Arendt to move that forward. We testified, got behind it as a high priority to help our college or our high school and middle school counselors. So that's enough money to train 600 of the 850. Math competency initiative, bold vision. What would a university president, what would their takeaway be, as I frame it, after being a or a university president at Weber State, and also on our board? What would the new Senator Ann Milner, former president of the university, what would she come forward with? Well, she came forward with a math competency bill. Complex, hard to understand, but absolutely essential to reinvent that 12th grade that's crucial of math and make it relevant. You can opt out if you're really on that top track. We're not going to let you opt out if you're the rest of us. So that was a great win for the state and for the students of the state, and really for our industry. The last one is the second to last one is the school turnaround and leadership development. When the President of the Senate calls you and says, and you know that he's run one bill in 3 years, and this is the bill, and he's light on getting it passed in the House, we spent the last 2 days finding 7 more votes to get it passed in the House. This is $7 million for the worst schools in the state. To change that, to give them funding, significant funding, and their colleagues supported that with $7 million of ongoing. That was a big, major issue. The last one is Zenefits. We were redlined as a state, all the negative press, that this was too bold, too disruptive, that one company was going to come and give away their software. What's really cool about this is John Notwell, who's a representative, stepped forward, member of our community, Senior Vice President of Sales at Task or Workplace with, 700 or 800 employees. And he also, as a representative, just said, hold it, not in this state. We can't do that. And at the Gold Room the other day, John was recognized. And they didn't add the last piece, that you're from our industry and one of our great executives. So, John, that's fantastic. Let's give the legislators that are here a big hand for a great session. Mr. Chairman, you're on.
Very good. Let's, a couple of key points. Number one, I have 8 short slides. This last year has been rich with great accomplishments. Rich alluded to some of the things that have been done, and couldn't have been done without a lot of you that have helped out. We have and hit some challenges, a few roadblocks that we've been able to push through. One of the things that is key, of course, we all hear about how great the state is, wonderful opportunities, lots of capital flowing in. I know this next legislative session, there's opportunities to deal with some of the big things because of the growth we're having in the state that we do need to deal with relating to air and water and, of course, always transportation and everything else. But great things that are going on, creating a wonderful business environment for all of us. One of the things that we've realized, and it's hit us very hard this last year, is that UTC really is, this is our organization. This whole annual meeting, what you're here for, we've realized that we truly are a critical voice of the industry. We're highly respected, and to a large extent that we take that seriously, and it's also very humbling. We've realized that there are a lot of areas in which we can lead out on and need to lead out on more efficiently and more effectively to have impact, and also making sure that we're listening very closely to all of the organizations involved in our industry. This year, you'll see us going forward. We will continue to lead out. I'll share one example of an area. The board meeting this morning, we talked a tremendous amount about relating specifically to talent shortages and some of the solutions there. Additionally, our responsibility is not so much to drive change as an organization as it is to find solutions that create the environments for each of our businesses to be able to thrive. And really, I think, do those things that align with the objectives of the organization as stated by each of you as members, really as that bubbles up through the board. Specifically dealing with talent shortage and the impact that has on education and what we need, funding initiatives, and it's some of the other big things that we're doing. And then the other piece that we've really worked on the last couple of years is getting meaningful results. Rich went through, shared a list, and thanks to our Jeff and Paul Rogers and their help, many of you who are willing to show up at the Capitol during the session, meet with legislators, and talk through and share the information that we all experience day to day has really helped. And so going forward, we're able to talk about the results we're getting, not just the things that we're doing, the activities that we're participating in as UTC, but actually hard results. We've learned a lot also. As we get into one example here, talent shortage. You may not be aware that, I'll tell you, actually I will share this right now. You may not be aware that in the state, if you were to ask the Division of Workforce Services, how many engineer vacancies do we have? They would say there's about 260. That's all we need to fill in the whole state. And as Rich mentioned earlier, Hill Air Force Base can consume every one of the engineers that can come out of every college of engineering right now, them alone. And so there are hundreds of positions. I have had 3 CEOs and senior executives in companies that say we can consume 450 engineers a year. We have jobs that we're just not filling. So talent shortage is impacting all of us. One of the other discussion items that we talked about in our executive and board meeting was that there are a lot of other positions in the state now that we're filling. This wonderful economy of only 3.4% unemployment is really having crunch in sales-related fields, product, also other engineering fields, as well as many other positions in our organization. So talent shortage is becoming a big, big issue. I don't know if you're aware that nationally, 53%, this is data that was in Forbes magazine a few months ago, 53% of college graduates are unemployed or underemployed. So it seems like there's some real opportunities for all of us to get more involved, to participate, and to let people know about the opportunities that actually do exist, especially in our state. And finally, one of the big things that we're working on this year is coming up with short-term solutions to deal with the issues right now. How do we address them? What do we do? In addition to the great things that are going on. The engineering initiative will have wonderful impact on all of our businesses and more as those students get through the pipeline and are able to enter the job force, the workforce. But additionally, we've got to figure out short-term solutions as well. We started working on this. We do have the task force that will focus on it. And those of you that want to get involved and can, we want to encourage you to get involved because your contributions will help us reach solutions that can deal with the issues right now. A little piece of data. I don't know if you're aware that most of the students that have opportunities to go out of state when they leave high school leave. We lose a lot of that talent. Also interesting to me, if we talk to Rich Brown up at the U, he'd say, once those students get into the engineering program, they usually stay. But getting them there, we're finding that they're going to East and West Coast universities, and those students have a tendency to stay out of the state. So another key point that we need to be sensitive to and aware of. Of course, we're trying to figure out ways to hire them and bring them in. And then my last slide is this. With all that's going on in our state, many of you are very, very busy. And candidly, we want to invite you to get involved and do more. There's several of our Board of Trustees members that are here that are doing a lot. Others of you that showed up at the legislative sessions, those efforts are greatly appreciated. We do have our ongoing Public Policy Committee. We have other events that are very important to be at and participate in. One of the things that I feel very important and a lot of pressure about is that we each have a responsibility to all of the other tech companies in the state. Many aren't aware of all of the efforts that we have that are going on, but we are the voice that is respected up at the Capitol about industry, and we want to get all of those companies involved as well. So if you know people that are not coming to the events or not participating in UTC, I challenge and encourage you to make sure that they do come out and take time to get involved. There is a blue sheet in the stack of stuff that was on your chair. Please take a moment before you leave to just fill that out. You can leave it on the table, and some of the wonderful UTC staff will pick it up. But if there are events you can get involved with, things you can do, please let us know. And again, the wonderful UTC staff will reach out to you and get you involved. So we just have many, many events throughout the year that can really add value and are very informative, not only to the industry, but also can be very helpful to your organizations as well. So, moving right along, we have several people that we'd like to recognize this year. Rich, could you join me on the stage here? And first and foremost, we have, I'm going to read a little more than I normally do. I'm not great at staying on script, and I know Judy was a little stressed about that. But because of that, I'm going to stay very specifically on it, largely because there are some accomplishments that we really do need to recognize, especially those of legislators. So I'm going to actually read some of these things, and we'd like to invite those that are here to come up. So there are 4 of our legislative honorees that are unable to attend us today, but we will take the pleasure in recognizing them. So I'm going to actually read some of their contributions, largely because there are many of you want to know, we always want to know, what are our representatives doing? What are our senators actually doing? And so that's one of the reasons why we feel it's important to share it at this meeting. So Rich had mentioned the funding of the $4.5 million towards the engineering initiative. This was a major stake in the ground this year for our industry. We had some challenges towards the end, but we were able to work through those, and fortunately the governor was very supportive. But this is a very important bill to the economic development of the state, and especially dealing with some of this talent shortage that we have. This initiative will start to increase much-needed capacity, roughly 250 more computer science and engineering graduates per year. This is truly a must for midterm talent and this shortage to help with the issues. Fortunately, this critical funding helps our universities and colleges hire the faculty needed. That's also one of the challenges well, it's great there's funding. Let's make sure that our higher ed institutions can hire the faculty to actually teach and train these engineers. So first, we'd like to recognize Speaker Greg Hughes. We greatly respect his willingness to support the engineering initiative and his leadership to advocate for UTC and the technology community. He has helped to address the need for a skilled workforce that meets the needs of the technology community. I don't believe Greg's able to be here today. Next, Representative Patrice Arendt. Representative, if you could come up to the stand, we would appreciate it. UTC recognizes Representative Arndt for her work with HB 198, strengthening college and career readiness, which provides grants to local education agencies for professional development for school counselors. $400,000 to provide one-time online college and career readiness professional development for about 600 counselors, helping to bring most of our counselors up to date within 1 year. For those of you that don't know, this counselor issue has bubbled up in committee meetings that I've sat on for the last 4 years, and this is a major accomplishment that will have great impact on our industry by helping students know what the opportunities are. Let's give the representative a big hand. We're going to do a group photo, so we're trying to help everyone feel very uncomfortable while they're waiting. All right, next, Majority Whip Francis Gibson has picked up Becky Lockhart's push for the necessity of technology in education, has been a champion for the technology industry and the critical role it plays in the economic prosperity of our state. He's also one who understands the importance and critical nature of teachers and helping them understand because of the impact they have on getting them ready to enter the career, college and career. Not only did he support the digital teaching and learning program with Senator Stevenson, but the engineering initiative as well. He also co-sponsored the math competency initiative with Senator Milner and the public school dropout bill with Senator Osmond. And Majority Whip Francis Gibson is not here today, but please let him know how much you appreciate his efforts and dedication. Next, Representative Dean Sampay. In his role as chair of the Executive Appropriations Committee, Dean has been a crucial champion by helping to support the technology industry's need to build a highly skilled workforce. One example of this was his support to increase the funding for the engineering initiative by another $3.5 million ongoing and $1 million one time this last legislative session.
Let me add a paragraph to that. So we got $3.5 million of ongoing of that 4.5. You put that with the decade before's funding increments of 11.5. So it takes us to 15 million ongoing every year. And when a university gets that, they need to match it. So it doubles that. That 15 is really $30 million that we've taken as a high priority. And the legislators that we're featuring on this have played a major role. So $30 million of ongoing to make sure we're starting to ratchet up the capacity. Again, we're not even close, but at least that one area is a big success story. And so make sure that we thank these great legislators for their huge support.
Great. Thanks, Rich. All right, Representative John Notwell. John, if you could come up. He sponsored House Bill 141, which was the insurance-related inducements or Zenefits. Senior executive at Workfront, formerly at Task, John demonstrated his leadership as a champion for the industry and passed legislation to help protect a company's ability to market itself without government overreach regarding regulation of innovative, disruptive technology businesses. He voluntarily stepped forward to solve this problem. Thank you, John, for representing our industry so well. Just those uncomfortable standing in front of everyone moments. Representative Val Peterson. Val has been a champion for engineering initiative and funding, along with several other initiatives, I might add, to help protect the existing $30 million funding that Rich mentioned for the STEM Action Center by opposing bifurcation of the STEM Action Center. He's been a consistent advocate and defender of the technology community. So, Representative Peterson, we greatly appreciate all that you do. Thank you so much. Let's get a look at Charles here. All right, President Wayne Niederhauser. Wayne wasn't able to be here. He sponsored Senate Bill 235, which was a school turnaround and leadership development, which provides support to help turn around low-performing schools. Passing this critical bill secured $7 million to turn around the state's lowest level of failing schools by bringing in outside leadership expertise to train administrators and help these schools get turned around. Now, School turnaround, many of you are probably saying, why would we even worry about school turnaround issues? The reality is these things all have significant impact on our businesses. Our state, incidentally, wasn't doing a lot dealing with the schools that were really challenged, and President Niederhauser has been watching this very closely and realized there needed to be some action taken, and did. I would also mention, I'm going off script, Judy, I apologize, our legislators, our policymakers, they care so much. I found as I spend time with so many of them that they know the issues, they care about the issues, they take time if they don't know it to understand it, and they don't want to fly off, half-cocked if I may, to figure things out. They really want to get it, and that's why we have these great leaders that are willing to step up and drive initiatives that will have significant impact on our state, and most importantly for all of us here, on our companies and what we're really trying to do. So thank you. So finally, Senator Ann Milner. Senator, if you would join us on the stand while you come up, I'll share a little information with everybody. Former Weber State University President Ann Milner said her main takeaway from 10 years in the post was that her freshman college students were lacking sufficient math skills. To overcome the 40% of students who have to take remedial math when they enter college, that's a huge cost to taxpayers and to the students. UTC helped pass this bill to ensure all high school graduates have demonstrated appropriate math competencies for success in their chosen pathway. So this, again, specifically has great impact on our industry. So thank you very much, Senator. You don't get enough recognition.
Do you want to say something about Paul and Jeff Rogers?
Yeah.
Just have them stand. It's better for me to do it. Just thank them.
We good? Thank you, everybody. Let's give them another big hand. And then we have Paul and Jeff Rogers here. Paul and Jeff, could you both just stand for a moment? These are, I don't know if that was a moment. That sounded like a fraction of a second to me. So Paul and Jeff Rogers are can we say lobbyists in this meeting? I don't know. So they are our lobbyists and have greatly helped. Not only are they highly respected in the state, they too, I mentioned our legislators, how they take time to get to know issues and understand them. They are really a key part of our team as UTC, and I think some of the very influential people in the state. So let's give them a hand of appreciation if you join me. All right, we'd like to invite Mark McBride up. Is Mark here? Oh, he's not here, sorry. We're going to recognize Mark. Thank you. And just so everybody knows, and in fact, I'd like to ask if we could please have the industry award recipients come to the stage in order as outlined in the agenda. So I'm going to just give you that heads up, and we'll move things right along. Mark is being recognized as our Volunteer of the Year. And for those of you that may not be aware, he's the CFO of Landesk. He isn't able to join us today, but he's being recognized as volunteer. See, this is why I can't go off script. It says he is unable to recognize us today. And as Volunteer of the Year for countless hours, he spans as co-chair of the UTC's Public Policy Forum, attending forum meetings weekly during the session and monthly the rest of the year, along with meetings at the Capitol, legislative breakfast, meeting with Senator Hatch, talent shortage task force, etc., not to mention his active participation in the CFO forums. Mark has really stepped up and shown up really far over and above the things that I would think normally are expected. So in his absence, let's give him a big hand still. Okay. And then if the rest of you could please come up, that's Lillian Sosi Jensen. I'll just read everybody off. Helen Hu, and actually then we'll hold off on the HR group for a moment, right? So while Lillian is walking up here, Comprehensive Counseling and Guidance Program Specialist, Utah State Office of Education. Lillian is being recognized as Educator of the Year due to her outreach to UTC for the last 3 years at the suggestion of counselors from the Wasatch Front Counselors Fair who had worked with UTC the previous 2 years to connect school counselors statewide with technology industry representatives to improve their career awareness in order to provide more career opportunities for Utah students. It has been a great experience for all involved, and this year UTC worked with USOE, that's the Utah State Office of Education, for those of you that are wondering, to pass the Counselor Professional Development Bill, HB 198. So let's give Lillian a great big hand. Great work. And then do we have our next recipient, Helen? There she is. Helen, who is being recognized as Educator of the Year due to her vision, leadership, and dedication, including taking a sabbatical to do so, of mainstreaming computer science in our schools and working with the Utah State Office of Education to make computer science an accepted science requirement. I don't know if you're all aware that computer science was not a recognized science until this last year by our state. So major accomplishment. So this is for high school graduation, so it's now recognized along with chemistry, biology, and physics. She is an active participant in the UTC public policy forums and actively involved in helping to solve the talent shortage problem. Let's give Helen a great big hand. All right, additionally, well, now we'd like to invite the HR Executives of the Year up. We alluded to some of the work that began with the meeting that Rich mentioned last December, where we realized there were some talent discrepancies and other opportunities that we really needed to address. And these three that we're going to recognize right now have really contributed and done a tremendous amount to help all of us. And they are Teresa Schlegel, Jeff Weber, and Kathy Donahoe. So Kathy is with Domo, right?
Yes, with Domo.
And I was just going to read a great little thing. Do I have a great thing to read about them? So we're going to congratulate.
Thank you.
And get a photo. One more. Oh. All right, and let's invite Teresa up. So Teresa is the VP of Ohana Services at the School Improvement Network, and that's what we call HR at the School Improvement Network. So these three have all, in fact, I'll wait for Jeff to get up here. Domo has about 200 openings right now, I believe. So again, to the talent shortage issue. And then Jeff, you can join us as well. Jeff is at Instructure, the VP of HR there. We'll get these three alone, and then we'll book in. One more. And we're just putting these three to work. Yes, this is a commitment.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3.
So let's give him a big hand. So
So how many openings?
So there are over 500, almost 600 openings just for those three organizations. So just to stress this talent shortage issue, we really can't say enough. Rich alluded to it and mentioned them earlier in the work that they're doing, but all three of them have met numerous times since Teresa is at my organization, the School Improvement Network. I'm well aware of how much they've met, what they're really trying to do, the heavy lifting that's gone on, these data discrepancies that we found out that, I know if we polled this audience based on the numbers that are here, we would probably have about 4,000 or 5,000 openings in our companies. Very significant, yet if we look at the data in the state, as I mentioned earlier, it's substantially lower. So big heavy lifting that they're doing, and we appreciate that very much. Just continuing on a little bit more, we have, could Mark Fredrickson please come forward? Mark is formerly with, I always say this wrong, Nargi, yep, I do, see there. Currently VP of Snap Connor PR. Mark has served as co-chair of both the marketing and PR forums simultaneously and facilitated multiple UTC marketing and PR events, as well as being an active participant in UTC events and writer of UTC press releases. Let's give Mark a big hand. And everyone, thanks for your patience as we take these photos. You can't recreate them. So next, we'd like to recognize John Reig, Sales Executive of the Year. John, if you could come forward. As VP of Sales of Experticity, John serves as co-chair of our sales forum, for which we would like to recognize him for all his efforts on behalf of this forum. It is not an easy task to pin down presenters for forums among people who travel all the time. John does a great job and is quite persistent. That's that great sales coming through ability, and currently a one-man show. We thank him for his diligence and hope to have another co-chair for him shortly, actually. Let's give him a great big hand. Next, we'd like to invite Bob, is it Vukic? Emerging Executive of the Year. Is Bob here? Here he comes. As CEO of Inuvate, Bob has been actively involved in almost every activity offered by UTC. He truly has been maximizing his membership, and it is fun to hear about how his company is growing and thriving as a result. He truly exemplifies an emerging technology exec. Let's give Bob a big hand. Has 5 employees currently, and currently expects to be at 40 by the end of the year. So exciting. All right. Next, we'd like to invite Chris Marsh up, our CTO of the year. And SCI, go ahead, let it out. We can have a little fun here, even if we're just trying to move through. So thank you. As CIO of Viacode, Chris has been a long-time active supporter of the CTO Forum and other UTC events, and just recently became a co-chair of the CTO Forum event. UTC is looking at doing joint CTO-CIO events in the months ahead. Thanks, Chris, for your participation. Another big hand. And it is Viacode. Thank you. I'm usually a little bit anal about pronunciation, so thanks. All right, next, our CFO of the year, Matthew White. Matthew's up here. As VP of Finance at Exmission, Matthew is historically an avid attender of UTC CFO forums and finance clinics. And 2014 was no different. Thanks, Matthew, for your active participation, support, and sharing with others. And then finally, we'd like to invite up the CEO of the year, Jeff Flam. I saw Jeff. There he is. So, UTC is pleased to recognize Jeff as our CEO of the year. A highly successful entrepreneur prior to joining UTC, Jeff still avails himself of every opportunity he can to maximize his participation in UTC and grow his company, including sharing his expertise with others as a presenter. I know personally Jeff's always willing to share and meet and really do whatever it takes to do the right thing and in the right way. In his own words, he stays updated on industry trends, meets great prospects, and has found many of his current vendors through this association. Thank you, Jeff, for your leadership and ongoing support of UTC. Let's give him a big hand. All right. Let's move on to the introduction of the keynote, Rich. Charles, would you like to get up here, please? This is Charles White. He's the president of Weber State University. Thanks so much. Sure. And thanks to Charles, we have a keynote that we're all looking forward to hearing, but we'd like to let Charles do the introduction at this point and introduce our keynote address. Charles?
Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chuck White, and it is my honor to serve as president of Weber State University and as a UTC trustee. And today it's my distinct pleasure to introduce the participants for our fireside chat keynote presentation. Howard Lindzon is our featured guest. Howard has more than 20 years experience working at the intersection of technology, finance, and entrepreneurism. He has a special talent for starting, nurturing, and advising innovative companies. And today, Lindzon is the founder, general partner, and the public face of the social leverage entities. Howard is the co-founder and chairman of StockTwits, which is the #1 social network for investors and traders. It says so on their website. In 2010, StockTwits was named one of the 50 best websites by Time magazine, and in 2012, Fast Company named it one of the top 10 most innovative companies in finance. Impressive, you say, but what's he done lately? Well, at the end of 2013, Howard stepped down from his operational role as CEO of StockTwits, but he remains its chairman, and this, along with his hedge fund experience, gives social leverage access to a community of professionals who can evaluate fintech opportunities. For the uninitiated, fintech companies use technology to make financial systems operate more efficiently. Howard is a super angel. His many successful investments include Rent.com, which was purchased by eBay, GolfNow.com, which was purchased by Comcast, Buddy Media, which was acquired by Salesforce, LifeLock, which is a 2012 IPO, and Twitter, which you know is a 2014 IPO. When I was a boy, my mother would tell me to behave so someday I could become an angel. But she never told me how to become a super angel. Howard's mother evidently saw something in him that my mother didn't see in me. So congratulations. It turns out that Howard passed on early opportunities to invest in Twitter and Zynga because he thought the price was too high at the time. But that just goes to show you that nobody's perfect, not even a super angel. He has exactly 247,212 followers on Twitter. His Twitter handle is @Howard Lindzon, all one word with no punctuation. He has some imposters, so you got to be a little bit careful. He's well-liked and highly respected as an investor, entrepreneur, and technology expert. Alex Lawrence is also with us today. Alex is Vice Provost at Weber State University, which answers your question about why I'm standing here and not some other UTC trustee. At Weber State, Alex is responsible for 8 different teams associated with business development, entrepreneurism, research, and innovation. These teams work together to help students to become entrepreneurs and to help companies gain access to university talent to drive economic development in northern Utah. At Weber State, Alex is a star, but today he cheerfully plays the role of second banana to his friend Howard Lindzon. And if you have been following Alex or Howard, you know that Alex has been soliciting your questions, which he will pose to Howard today. And if you haven't received that invitation, you're following the wrong people. Before coming to Weber State, Alex had a 20-year career as a serial entrepreneur. He was a partner in Lendio, founder of TwitJump, founder of Franchise Foundry, and founder of the Lawrence Capital Management Group. Alex is a weekly guest on KSL TV as their technology correspondent, and he writes a monthly column on entrepreneurship for Utah Business Magazine. He earned his MBA from Weber State University and is currently working on a PhD at Oklahoma State. He's an avid outdoorsman, golfer, and biker. According to Alex, nobody loves Utah more than Alex. And ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm UTC welcome to Howard Lindzon and Alex Lawrence.
All right, did they turn the microphones on? Thank you, President White. Chuck's a lot of fun to work with. Weber State's a great place, so thank you for introducing us. I was hoping mine would be shorter and yours would be longer in terms of the introduction. It was also nice to,
advantage.
Yeah, and President Milner, Senator Milner. Nice to see Weber State well represented today. So, Howard, thanks for coming, man.
It's a long hour and a half from San Diego.
Yeah. We're going to have some fun today. So Howard and I are friends, and that's why I'm up here, right? So same question that President White answered. And I've been soliciting questions from a number of people in the audience on Twitter and otherwise. And Howard and I have been chatting a little bit. And we're gonna talk about some stuff. But at the end, if we've got time, and don't worry, I won't go long, we'll ask questions of the audience too, if we have some time. So we'll do a little bit of both. So let's start out, Howard, if we could. Long introduction, but there's some people here that probably still want to know more. So why don't you talk about your background, your childhood, where you're from, all that stuff.
I am a super angel. It's a gift. My mom gave me nothing. But we do talk still. I'm born in Toronto, which accounts for people thinking I have a sense of humor. It shows I grew up watching Second City and some of the great comedians, doing a little stand-up myself. Which is probably why I'm comfortable speaking in front of a group of people, and I appreciate Alex doing it in an interview, because if I ever do presentations, one slide ends up happening, and I talk about something completely different. I was born in Toronto. I moved to Arizona when I was for grad school. I'm Jewish. We like the desert. And that always works. And I didn't know there was an ocean like 5 hours away, or I would have moved right to San Diego. But the desert was great. Went to ASU, 20 years there. Moved to San Diego after the real estate crash. I was investing in internet companies, never really a real estate guy in Arizona, LifeLock and Golf Now, which were incredible companies, still are. And not seeing enough deals, and I was like, well, if those, so it was easy to move. Anyways, 2 kids, 2 dogs, 1 wife.
That's good.
Yeah. So in dog years, I've been married 156 years, but married 19 years. And so I live in Coronado. It's a dream life. I'm very lucky, knock on wood. I have no complaints. I look at the world, but my world, as you hear me talk today, I'm a glass half full person. I look at the world, look at a glass of water, and I go, it's half full. And that is a different way of thinking. There's really only, to me, 2 ways of thinking. You look at that glass and see it as half empty or half full. I approach everything as half full.
That's a good way to approach things. Let's talk about tech, because that's why we're here. There's a lot of companies everybody's heard of that you're excited about. There's some that people haven't heard of that you're excited about. Talk about some new companies, old companies, interesting stuff that you're following, investing in, watching. What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the most interesting company of our newest generation is Uber, maybe Airbnb. Uber started out, you could have invested on AngelList at a $4 million valuation 4 or 5 years ago. It is now half the size of FedEx and growing, and really just getting started. I think the thing that Uber is proving right away to anybody else is that Wall Street as a model is broken, which is the focus of most of my life. In that we could argue good or bad, but the point is there is no way to value these companies under metrics today. People are just starting to work at Uber, and the banking industry, as we know in the analyst industry, is shrinking at a time when people don't know how to estimate the size of these companies. So I think we're in an era where we're just seeing growth that's never been heard of, and there's less analysts covering this, which was an inspiration for StockTwits, of course, which is we're all equipped to do some basic analysis because a lot of us are working at fast-growing companies and will never go change jobs to go work at a bank. So we're just as qualified to analyze these companies as a banker.
So Uber's an obvious one. What other ones are less obvious or that you're using, that you're seeing that might be interesting to the group?
I'm geared financially, so there's an app that came out that we are angel investors in at Social Leverage called Robinhood. And Robinhood is counterculture in the sense that when we think of the financial world, it's very, you can't do this. It's very esoteric. It's we supposedly just found a guy in his pajamas that brought the flash crash living in London. So, with an iPad and pajamas, you can crash the market supposedly. We live in this world where we can arrest a guy who we say caused a flash crash, but we tell individuals that they don't know how to invest and they should just turn it over to a robo-advisor. So my opinion is hard-earned money, learn to speak the language yourself, whether it's Chinese or Spanish. Finance is just another language. It is a little bit complicated, but my mission is to make that simpler and to teach people the language of the markets, because it's a beautiful language.
So tell them what Robinhood. It's a cool.
Robinhood is a very simple mobile app. Mobile first. It's a brokerage. They've taken out all fees and commissions. So it's basically an Uber platform for trading. And so my kids, anybody here can go pick a basket of the companies they really like, whether it's Nike, Under Armour, Facebook, Twitter, Shake Shack, push a couple buttons, own 1 share or 2 shares of each, pay no fees, and have a portfolio built themselves. And I think that's the fastest way to start learning the language of the markets. And it's, one of the greatest symbols of capitalism in the United States is our markets, the freedom to buy and sell things. And that's why eBay became such a great company, and now Etsy just went public. And the markets are the same thing, and they're finally being democratized in the next big wave. So that's why I'm focused on financial services. That's why StockTwits is so important to me. And, at 49 years of age, domain experiences, we'll get to this question later, is so important. So that's why I'm in this boring focus space that I'm in. But to me, it's exciting.
Boring, but it's been lucrative. It's been good. I mean, some cool companies. So talk a little bit about Meerkat, Periscope. We were talking about that in the hall. I mean, some other technologies that maybe some people are using or not. I mean, what's happening with online video? So he's got a lot. Who follows Howard on Twitter? Of 275,000 people.
How many people have already just blocked me?
So you're starting to mess around with online video, and we're starting to see that. Where do you think that's headed?
Well, I'm super bullish. I think Twitter's my favorite product. Chemists talk about blowing up things. I like to blow up things with words and with thoughts. And luckily for me, I'm connected to very smart people. Social to me, and this is where we get into video, social to me is like a new banking system. We talk about Bitcoin. I'm not a Bitcoin guy, but we talk about banking and we keep talking about these new currencies. Well, the currency that nobody talks about and everybody says is overvalued is social currency. Now, there is inflation in the social world because my wife just joined Facebook and is addicted to it, but it took her 11 years. So you have this inflationary environment for social because it's so easy to access it, it's so easy to contribute. But like a banking system, the more you deposit, the more you have. So it's this real banking system that's developed that is more about the person. Facebook is the Citibank or Bank of America or JP Morgan all wrapped up in one. because they connect everybody and they are the infrastructure for this banking system. Obviously, Twitter and LinkedIn and all these Chinese and international companies as well, as is my company, StockTwits, which is a very niche version of it, but are these new banking systems. And I forget the question.
So Howard said to me, hey, yeah, I'll come talk, but you got to sit up there with me and keep me on track, man. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's get back to it. This leads to a question that was on the list. You're good at social media. I mean, you're fun to follow, interesting. You engage famous people, huge followings. Talk about social media. Talk about how people can use it, companies, individuals. I mean, you started to touch on that, but go a little deeper.
Yeah, I mean, it is men and women, very different, whatever they call it. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or whatever that is. Men don't understand foreplay. And social media and is very much about foreplay. You can't just show up and demand things. You have to, engage a little bit. You have to give before you get. And so I liken this, companies expect magic. They're used to paying dollars, having stuff happen at the enterprise level. Maybe it's my gift, we don't know, but my whole idea is first engage, especially in sales, and social media is a form of sales. The more you give, the easier it is to ask for something, to extract something. So I think everybody can use social media. It's just a different use case for everybody. But we all have, as Steve Martin said in The Jerk, a special purpose. We are all experts at one thing. For me, I'm a social engineer. The game of Twitter to me is to connect. And I don't play games at home. I don't play games with my video games. But Twitter to me has been a video game. How do I get to that person? And what would I say to engage that person in a conversation? Now, generally, what never works is asking for something. What that usually means is engaging in their conversation and furthering their conversation along. So I keep it really simple, and I think most people look at it as a daunting thing, just like opening a bank account. Oh my God, the paperwork, and I don't really have enough money to do it. But everybody has the power to contribute to it.
Well, you've done that with, Mark, your conversations with Mark Andreessen are pretty funny.
I challenge myself to engage. It's like a cold call, like with the telephone. But it's so much easier than a telephone where you would have to talk to the secretary and, do all these kinds of things, not that long ago where you couldn't even get access to the person. But now each of these people are in front of you. You just have to have the know-how how to present yourself to them. It's not easy, but there's this less friction to get to the people that you want. And we see that with LinkedIn. And all this signal in this data that's just, they talk about big data, but it's real. And it may not be playing out so much in terms of companies being able to monetize big data, but we see with biotech companies, which are booming, that they're using all this technology for data purposes to move drug testing along, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this stuff that we're contributing in social is for a greater good, in my opinion.
Well, that's how we met.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah.
And, then once we're connected, even though we don't hang out, we've met.
I try and hang out.
Well, I haven't been to, you got a bad skiing season, but I don't know, who do you blame in this town for that?
I don't know. We usually blame legislators for most bad things.
So once we're connected, it becomes electric.
I take full credit for no snow.
It just becomes electric. Once we're connected, then everybody starts moving those pieces along. So speed is what happens. These things harder to value, and that leads to the bubble question always.
Yeah, let's talk bubble. So we got a couple of billion-dollar companies in the audience that have been raising at pretty high valuations, gobs of money. It's happening like crazy in California, right? You're seeing huge valuations, big dollars.
Yes.
Hot topic. Is it a bubble? What's happening? Too much money? Too big valuations? I bet you've got some.
I have some good opinions. I try not to think of the world in terms of buy or sell or bubble or no bubble. Markets are simpler to me. There's fear and greed. And as long as you understand fear and greed and where you sit along that pipeline, you can make good decisions. Because it's all about making good individual decisions. And so right now, I think while people talk about the bubble, nobody talked about the oil bubble, which was a real bubble. While it was being, we had $130 oil. My 75-year-old mom's getting called by her broker to do oil trusts. North Dakota and Texas are booming, but yet we're talking about a tech bubble in Silicon Valley. So I like when I hear bubble. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying there seems to be more fear, both of it being a bubble, more fear of, oh my God, I'm missing out, and fear of, oh my God, the last time I invested, I lost a lot of money, versus greed. The greed was in oil. The greed has been in commodities. The greed has been in China and hoarding things. The greed has been in leverage. And that's why we started social leverages. We believed in 2008 that we had a peak in financial leverage, which was, 3 people continuing to borrow and building this huge bubble based, and all the pieces ended up exploding, and we're still paying that price. Whereas social leverage is where you and I connect, and then our networks connect, is a lot healthier type of leverage in the system because it speeds things along. So if we're going to call something that's 5 years old, which I call social leverage, and Facebook's a 10-year-old company, but really just relevant for the last 7 or 8, in terms of stepping out of just being college, I think that's silly to say bubble. Because, again, Wall Street doesn't know how to analyze these things. There's nobody from these companies ever going to go work in the banking system to truly try and say, hey, guys, you don't really understand the power of networks. So Wall Street's just completely unequipped to deal with this. So everybody's got to use their own common sense and judge where they are on the fear and greed side of things.
So where are you?
Well, I'm 49. I'm just scared of everything. So I don't go to the doctor. That covers, not knowing if I'm sick. But I live in a world of, maybe I'm Canadian, maybe I'm conservative. I think cash is a weapon. And I think now that I've made some money, it allows me to be fearful and greedy at the right times. And so I like to be opportunistic. Therefore, cash, when you have cash and you have friends, you can take more risks and you don't worry about what the media is saying. So I think that's the way I operate. I advise that, seeing that I seem to be a happy guy and living the life that some people seem to think is awesome, and it is awesome, that maybe I'm on to something, which is, use the power of the social network. It is a currency. Save some money, get some domain experience, and then practice your skills along the fear and greed cycle, and don't listen to the media. Old stream media. Listen to your group of friends.
So you passed, though, when Zynga came around because you thought the price was too high. You were in Twitter early. It came around again. You said, no, price is too high. So how does that apply? That was a few years ago. If you're passing then, are you passing now?
It's always scary. I think it's like, and I do a lot of sports analogies because I'm Jewish and I never could play sports.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Oh,
my son does not know he's Jewish. Therefore, he may achieve higher in sports.
I won't tell Max. I'll keep that quiet.
What was the question?
The question, you passed on second on Twitter and Zynga for valuation reasons. You
never feel good about this stuff. But I think one thing I try and teach people about the markets is, and this is why I'm so bullish on a StockTwits and a Robinhood, is the earlier you learn the language of the markets, the more private markets and public markets, all markets are very similar with supply, demand, and catalysts and valuations. And at the time, I was very new to the business. And when I invested in LifeLock, it was a $6 million pre-money company. It seemed fair to me. They were doing revenue. I liked the plan. GolfNow was a $2 million valuation at the time, and that felt fair. And I had sold my company, my company Wallstrip, to CBS for some ungodly amount of money at the time to me. And my investors in that company were Fred Wilson, who's, I think, my mentor and one of the great investors. And he had introduced me to a ton of friends, again, social leverage, Mark Pincus being one of them, who was, and we're in a no-tweet zone, please, one of the most difficult people of all time. And a really ornery, mean guy. He's about this tall. He's Jewish. And but we like not to say that amongst our group. And he came to me.
There's a group?
Yeah, there's a group.
Okay.
It's a secret handshake.
We have a group here
And
in Utah. And we have secret handshakes too. Right.
ours are better. Ours are super secret.
So you won't tell me?
So I had gotten into this great network, and I made them a little bit of money, so I was now entered into the group, seeing deals, sharing deals. They would take my calls. I had to take their calls always. And at the time, Fred, who was putting the first money into Twitter, showed me Twitter, and I really was on my BlackBerry. This is 2007, and I was like, ooh, I went to the bathroom. Ooh, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing that I've ever seen. If people talked about stocks doing this, that would disrupt Wall Street. And Fred was like, yeah, exactly. And he told me the valuation. I said he was crazy. It was a $20 million valuation. It was a good pass by me, obviously. I'm very against making money easily. And that 25 grand or 50 grand would be worth over 10 million today. And I'd be making snow, skiing on my own personal slope, not talking to you, if I had done that. The next one that I was genius to pass on was Mark Pincus and Zynga. And the mistake on Mark Pincus was, I didn't like him.
Do you still not like him?
No, he's
better now?
He's a genius. I mean, it's not about liking and disliking.
Well, that's why I want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Like, what are you looking
This
for?
is a no tweet zone, but Mark had been such a difficult investor with me in Wall Street, and I made him money, and he was always the most difficult person, even though we spoke the least. And I invited him into my next deal, which was Buddy Media, which became an $800 million exit to Salesforce. This was back in 2007, one of my first investments with the check post-Wall Street, where I was flush and just felt like I was handing out checks. But I met Mike Lazaro, who started Buddy Media in a bar in New York. We both worked at CBS. He was like, I'm leaving CBS. I'm going to start another company. And I said, I'm in. I called Mark Pincus because he had just made money with me. And I said, Mark, blah, 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 Mark, Buddy Media, he's going to create a currency for Facebook. He goes, I'm in for $250,000, hung up the phone on me. 2 minutes later, he calls me back, and I go, oh, God, he's going to cancel that. And I'm sitting over with Mike. He goes, listen, I'm sitting with Peter Thiel. He's also in for $250,000. Hangs up again on me. So I look at Mike, and I go, you got a round going. So at the first board meeting, Mark Pincus sat down and goes, this is the dumbest idea I'd ever heard. I would like my money back. And those are like the Mark Pincus stories. And we were in the bathroom talking about what was wrong with Michael Lazaro's, and I wanted to kill him at this point. And he goes, I'm going to start Zynga. It's a poker app, and I'm going to blow up gaming on Facebook. And he goes, are you investing? And I said, yes, I'll invest. I was hoping he would never remember the conversation. Turns out, he goes, let's agree on terms. We're still in the bathroom. I said, why don't we do the same terms as Buddy Media? We agreed. We go back to the board meeting. Mike Lazaro looks at Pincus and goes, I'm not giving you back your money. That was the best decision Mark Pincus never was allowed to make. He starts Zynga. Next thing you know, I get a call from Fred Wilson. He goes, and there was a whole new price at a 20 million valuation, and that's why I passed. So stupid decisions to pass are always based in some kind of experience. But in hindsight, if the entrepreneur wants to be a billionaire and is, up to doing that type of stuff, they have that look about them, it's hard to say no. And with Twitter, what Fred taught me was if you like everything about the company and the product and the opportunity and you're worried just about price, hold your nose and write the check. And that's what makes probably Fred one of the best investors in the world, and I think it's really wisdom, and so I've been able to get those pearls of wisdom by passing, I've learned more from passing on Twitter and Zynga than I have by investing in Twitter later on in other companies, which is, there's different methods for everything, but missing stuff, you learn more than by doing things correctly and making money.
So let's talk about, you talked about some personality traits. You meet a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Where you live and where you work. What do you look for? What do you like? What's obvious to you? You talked about this $1 billion look. Aaron has that about him. So.
Where's Aaron? Aaron, stand up.
You're too late, man.
Yeah, I didn't like him.
Yeah. No, you did. That was it?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Just something about him. Okay. No, I don't know. It's not so much a look. I think there's this domain experience. If I was going to tell an entrepreneur to do one thing, is is, I don't know if it's that 10,000 hour stuff, but it is about domain experience. You know, the earlier you find what you love, you know, I have 2 kids, 15 and 17, and we stress, just like anybody with kids this of age, is we want them to be a net depositor, not a net subtractor. And all I want my kids to do is to be happy and to give, because I know that giving gets. But they're at an age where all they think about is themselves, you know. So the more domain, the more you can find what you like early and build expertise in it, and if the better you're going to have all through entrepreneurship, right? Whether it's attracting that person who brings extra domain experience, or raising money, especially with good investors, which is the goal, not just money, but good money, smart money, we talk about, is you got to have domain experience. Otherwise, you know, the person investing the money is taking a much higher risk. And when problems really happen, if nobody has domain experience around the table, you got nothing.
So what do you think about this idea of nice, mean, cutthroat, honest? I mean, do you weigh that stuff, or is it really about business and the opportunity, and if you think they're going to make it? I mean, you want to work with people you like, right?
Yeah, I mean, I continue to make this mistake all the time. You know, you're sizing up people. I'm investing the first money with a group of people, and I got to pick the right people to do the deal with. I've got to have, you know, the right founder, and that has to be the right team, and then a lot of things have to go right. But I'm investing so early that they only have to get certain things right to get to the next point. You know, my expertise is very early on. I don't want board seats, etc. So, for me, if you don't have domain experience, I'm 49, I love fintech, I have partners that look at deals, obviously, in social leverage, but unless it's like something that I can size up myself to, meaning, as an investor, unless I think if the head of marketing gets hit by a bus, can I step in there and be the head of marketing or the head of sales? If I can't answer that question yes with enthusiasm, then as an early investor, I mean, it's just not smart. I'm not aligned. And my money just becomes a commodity in this whole thing, and I think that's probably the shakeout that we're headed to. Is there's a lot of people who think they're experts, but when things go sideways for 2 or 3 years, what really happens? And I don't think it's about money or this. It's just going to be about that 2 or 3 year sideways when it's hard to get your investors to answer a call because none of them really have domain experience to help you.
So does that mean a bubble bursts? Is that what you I mean?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't look at it as, I look at it as fear and greed. You know, I think there's a lot of greed around certain things, but at the same time, it's not the whole population that's involved in this. It's a very specific set of populations. It hasn't been good for North Dakota, hasn't been good for Texas with oil dropping to $50 a share, but it doesn't affect the average, person investing.
Agreed.
And so I think we have these pockets of I would say, massive greed, and then we still have this underlying fear, and it's creeping up around more of fear. Oh my God, I can't believe Domo just raised this money. I can't believe I missed it. There's this more of I can't believe I missed it, which scares me, but because that's leaning towards how you get a bubble. Mm-hmm. But 2000 was a bubble. The credit bubble was a bubble. Bitcoin at $1,000 was a bubble. But it didn't, but the credit one is the one that always was the big one. And I think we have this recency bias because, banks almost, Citibank was 99 cents. And the employees of Citibank had more money in, just in cash. They didn't care about their stock at this point. They were trying to figure out if the cash they had in Citibank was going to be there tomorrow. So I think we're a long way, and so that fear lasts a lot longer than the greed part. And so I still think we're at this fearful state. Okay. But you got to be careful. I mean, it's your money. You got to treat your money with respect.
So let's talk about advice. I mean, you've done a lot. You've been through a lot. You're 49 years old. Yep. So I feel like that Saturday Night Live skit. I'm 50. Remember that one?
I feel like 49.
Is that good? I'm 41.
I'm starting to take care of myself a little more. So I feel like 49 is the new 47. But I want it to be the new 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Sorry. It's fun to go back and forth. Good advice, bad advice, things you've learned. I know that there's a handful of things you've talked to me about over the last few years. Can you summarize a few of those things that you think are really, really good, really, really bad that you've seen or avoided?
Yeah, I mean, I love the markets because there's so much advice around managing money, whether you're an entrepreneur managing your burn rate, or when you get to profitability, or when you need to step up your hiring, or when you need to raise more money, or whether it's the stock market, which again, I believe is this great tool that 14-year-old kids are probably old enough to start managing $200-300 in a Robinhood account and manage seeing pennies and dollars disappear. Finally, they can do that without in a mobile-first environment. You know, the markets are connected. So whether you're an entrepreneur, the first thing I would do is give my kids a brokerage account and explain to them how profit and loss works and looking at their P&L. And whether it's $100 with 10 stocks, that means something to them. You've gamified it. At the other end, and it also teaches you when you're investing in stocks and markets, you're about managing your losses. You're not running a company, you're running your own P&L. Therefore, it's about managing your own budget, which is how much pain am I willing to take before I cut the loss and move on to something else. When you're running a company, it's very much the same thing. How quickly do I hire? When do I lay off? When do I raise money? When do I need to be profitable? Most companies need to be profitable from day one. So I think all those things are connected. And so the sooner you learn how to read the tape, how do you learn to read fear and greed, the better. That's the best advice. I've made that up, but that's the way I preach, and that's the way, that's the way I live my life with giving. Is I believe people need to follow smart people. And in this era of social, and we look at, I use the Tour de France as a perfect example. The peloton, which, Tour de France, an old race, but the real concept is surviving the peloton. It's a very complicated thing to stay amidst a peloton for you bike riders. It's complicated, just riding along with a group. It's scary, yeah. It's fast, but it's like, it's an ecosystem. And then depending on when you break free of the peloton decides the race. And that's not many breaks that happen. But surviving the peloton is important. With social, you have this ability to follow smart people. Meaning, I'll give you a Bitcoin example. When Warren Buffett thinks Bitcoin's very dumb. That's important, but it doesn't matter to me. Fred Wilson thinks Bitcoin is super interesting. That's interesting to me too. Not that doesn't mean I have to buy Bitcoin, but somewhere in between Fred Wilson, when Fred Wilson says it's not too late for him or early for him, and Warren Buffett says, leave me alone, there's this middle of the pie that says, okay, you know what, I can dip a toe in the water if I'm careful. And when Warren Buffett starts liking it, it's time to okay, Warren Buffett likes it, that's his game, but there's that middle of the road. And social allows you to connect to these pelotons to speed things up. So the best advice that I could give still is to engage in social, start making deposits, share stuff around your own expertise. It's not about how smart you are, or how many links you have, or how many likes you have. It's about building expertise. And people will find you because you're an expert at what you're an expert in. So people try and get all this creativity and they have to say the right thing. I would say no. You read all day. Share the stuff you read. People that have those same interests will find you. So that's the best advice.
That's good. That's good. Okay.
We good?
We're almost done, yeah. We're going to, a couple more questions, and then we're going to see if the audience has a few. Apple Watch.
Yes.
You getting one?
Oh, yeah. I was skeptical 6 months ago. What's that?
Comes out Friday?
Yeah. Like anybody should do with products. I'm long Apple. I've been long Apple a long time. Apple's been very, very good to me. The watch is interesting, right? First of all, I'm still bullish on Apple because of retail. I thought it was $1 trillion company. I don't know what $1 trillion means. It's just a cool thing to say. But really, I think they're a $2 trillion company. And here's why. Once you're at $1 trillion, what's the difference? But most importantly, what's $1 trillion amongst friends?
What's the other one besides Apple?
No one's close.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 2. So
nah,
I got you.
But they can get to $2 trillion. What Apple has is that culture, which is the store. Americans like shopping. Google has missed this trend. Of all things they've missed, this is the most important. Apple has the Genius Bar. My wife is now hooked for the next 40 years. I'm pretty much hooked. My kids are hooked. People want their electronics fixed, and we trust Apple. They're going to have to do a lot to screw that up. The watch is really important as a Trojan horse in the sense of we know they make great products. but we were all skeptical, why do we need another watch? I think when people try on the watch and realize this is more about fashion and getting rid of the phone and dealing with the distractions of the world, I think Apple's taking a big risk, as they did all the time, in making the phone less important, which is a brave move at a time to move the phone to your wrist for many of the things that you have the phone in front of us. So I think we live in an era of this distractions, and Apple is making a bold bet in reducing some of those distractions, which would go counter to what their business model should be, which is selling more phones and computers. So I'm excited about that. That's risk-taking at a level, and most people are apathetic towards watches, so that's a big risk. So as soon as some people start using them, that's the upside in the stock, and that's why I'm excited.
So you think the Apple Watch will reduce distractions? Because there's a lot of folks think it'll increase distractions.
I don't think there could be anything more distraction than watching a group of people staring at their computer. We've stopped listening, for better or for worse. I mean, we're all engaged in our phones, but these screens are addictive. They're basically putting a screen off to the side, powered by your phone, which can be back in your pocket, which could bring back smaller phones again. I'd love to have a flip phone. That'd be cool with my watch. Meaning, how much am I really getting from my iPhone other than distraction, right? I need a few stock quotes, I need a few notifications, my kids need to text me, but let's face it, there's not much I need during work hours that can't be solved with a couple glances with important settings. Is this going to be overnight? No. But a big risk by Apple, and that's what you want to see from a company that's $700 billion. That's pretty bold.
Yeah, crazy.
So bullish, but and I'm excited to actually wear the product. It's a beautiful product.
Your wife, your kids, just you?
My kids don't need it. I don't think this is. I think this is going to be a slow bleed, and I think until there's an app that women can talk about amongst themselves, and we don't know that yet until people start wearing them. I don't think women are going to rush for it. I just think this is a great place for people. Once it starts going, I think it could get interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to try one. See.
Yeah.
Okay, last question, and then we'll do a few minutes of audience stuff. Utah. What do you think the reputation is outside the state? The companies here, investors. I mean, surely, I'm assuming that you comes up on your radar.
Yeah, it's kind of since I came here for I've been coming skiing, but also the movie festival for a long time. Sundance.
Yeah.
And so Matthew Prince, who was Cloudflare, I randomly met him through Twitter, and he's running a huge company in the security space here. So I know a little bit about the ecosystem. There's a lot of public companies that come out of Utah. So, it's obviously being here, it's electric, just the showing today, and the universities. The key is the universities. So you've got a great ecosystem from university to people here their whole lives to year-round activities. You probably need you could use a couple hills in here in the middle of town just to make it look a little bumpier. But it's got the airport's easy. I mean, to me, the airport matters.
Yeah.
So the airport's easy. I mean, it's hard to get negative about Utah. It's just you got to have this ecosystem, and I don't have the advantage of having it, and I'm trying to invest where I'm good. So that's an opportunity for everybody.
So do you see deals from Utah ever in fintech?
I do. Matthew has introduced me.
Oh,
You
okay.
have introduced me to a lot. Yeah. But because I am I'm not an expert in the network here and set in my own ways, it's hard for me to take that
Well, we're
leap.
going to invite you back.
Yeah,
So.
happy to come back.
Okay, well, that kind of wraps up our question time. Has anybody got a burning question from the audience that we can yell out? We can hear from most people. Is there anybody that's courageous enough to ask one? No? Yes?
He's leaving.
Oh, he's out of here. He doesn't have a question. He's ready to leave. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So I'm a small personal investor in Meerkat. When I saw Meerkat, I was instantly engaged. The founder understood video. He was willing to walk away from something that actually had a little bit of traction because he saw something that was electric. I am a Twitter person, so I believe real-time broadcasting is the future, and we're disrupting cable companies. We're seeing it before our eyes. I grew up with kids that loved the Disney Channel. I don't think I've seen them turn on the TV in the last 5 years. That's an important trend. Unbundling content is an important trend. Well, Meerkat is an extension of unbundling. It's just a matter of who wins this race, who raises the right money at the right time. Periscope has a huge edge because they're on the Twitter graph. but that is also a problem for Twitter because they don't understand open. They have public they have quarterly results to meet, and so Meerkat has a really good edge around building other networks with their product, whereas Periscope is locked down on the Twitter stream. And so it's early. It's like early days, but I was more bullish thinking that I would use it more. And based on the first month, I haven't been using it for whatever reason. So I'm a little, but I still believe it's just a massive trend. And the Twitter graph is very important for broadcasting. So we're like day one, I would guess, finally, where you're not a slave to YouTube. I think the people worried are the YouTubes, the Comcast as usual. ESPN, Disney has been the smartest about all this. So it's really an exciting time. And Meerkat means something all the way up to Comcast, which is just amazing. Because I got a Verizon bill that was like, I'm their best friend right now because I was using these services. I was using 1 billion gigabytes. They own my home now. 1 month they own my home. So I think when you have a startup that gets the attention of Comcast, and Netflix, you have something interesting. Now it's an execution, and a lot of things have to go right, but I'm excited by it. Does that help?
Great answer. Good question. All right. I think that's it. Thanks, Howard. A lot of fun.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Chip.
Let's give Howard a big hand, and also Alex and Chuck for pulling this together. We really appreciate it. Just a couple of other items. We need to recognize Judy, who's over there speaking with Howard right now, and all the UTC staff. I know Shelley's here helping. I know the others are as well. So let's give the UTC team a big hand as well. Appreciation for them. Thank you so much. We announced at the Hall of Fame Judy's retirement, so she told me how much she enjoys knowing that every event she does now is her last event. She just really, I did see a load of stress get off her once we got through the awards, but we do appreciate her, and we are looking for a strong COO to try to fill her shoes and do some other things as well. So if you know of people, please refer to Rich and Judy. It is on the card. Oh, put it on the card, yes. And that takes me to my other item. I mentioned the blue card. Please just take a moment, fill it out, leave it on the table. You don't need to carry it around and turn it in. And then finally, let's invite our sponsors up here. And we have some prizes to give away. We are so appreciative of them. And Rich, you're going to come up and help here?
I'm going to bail you out, yeah. We got 3 prizes to give away. A little incentive, a little capital, and these are good. So if you'll fill these out, there's going to be a drawing for these 3 items. We've got to have you fill these out. All from the Apple Store.
Do you want to talk about them?
How far along, Judy? How far along are we? We've got to have at least 100 of you fill these out.
So everybody, if you fill out your form, I'll tell you, while you're doing that, John, come up here and we'll let you chat for a minute.
Introduce John.
This is John with Cottonwood Partners, and you have the big project right next to UTC's building, right?
Correct.
You want to just take 2 or 3 minutes and talk about it?
Thank you. First of all, be aware there's $1,000 worth of items going to be given away from the Apple Store if you stay, so you might want to just pay attention for 2 more minutes. We love Apple as well. That was a great speech about we love the company. There's nothing more fun than going into an Apple Store. We are building the last 2 buildings in the Cottonwood Corporate Center. We developed the Cottonwood Corporate Center, as many of you know, which turned out to be one of the more successful projects in the state. And we are now doing the last 2 buildings there, where we are stepping it up just a little bit more than we did with those buildings in terms of quality, amenities, services, and so on. So please come to the networking event on the 14th. It's going to be in our lobby in that building, and you'll be able to walk through the building and see all the amenities that we have there, see how the floors lay out. And we have one thing that's really pretty interesting. We have one floor that when we build out the 2 buildings together, you can have 60,000 square feet on one floor, which is hard to find in most real estate projects. Within the first building on that floor will be 38,000 square feet. The average floor plates are around 26 to 30. So please come take a look at that. We love your businesses. We know you're growing. We know you need more space. The other project that we're really happy to talk about, and both of these, by the way, are on the Lindt chocolate bar that you're sitting on. That's not a piece of cardboard. That's a very good chocolate bar, and it has both the Cornerstone building on it and the Forge at Geneva, which is what we think is going to be the place to be in Utah County. It's a 45-acre project in the center of the old Geneva steel mill project. It's got fabulous access, proximity to everywhere in the Utah County area. Utah Valley University has 200 acres across the street from us. The Miller Megaplex Entertainment Center is just to the south of us. The Vineyard Connector, which is connecting I-80 from Orem to Lehigh, goes right by our project. We've designed it for 1,800,000 square feet of regional mixed-use space. It'll be about 2/3 office commercial and about 1/3 residential. And it'll be designed to be more like the Pearl District in Portland or the 4th Avenue District in Berkeley, Union Station area in Denver, those kinds of live, work, play environments that we think will really be a fun place to be. So if you have space needs, please come look us up. We'd love to work with you. Thank you very much. It's great to be here at UTC and be a sponsor. Thank you.
John will have you stay up here and read the names. Just while they're gathering, so everyone knows, this is the Ultimate Ears boombox, wireless, 50 feet plus capacity and capability. I believe these are a couple $100. Actually, great, cool, super cool device. Solo 2 wireless, gold. These are Beats Solo 2 wireless headphones. This is the special edition. It's the gold edition, by the way. I know most of you do not have the gold edition. And then finally, there's a $500 gift card. So you can choose one of these two gifts if you win, or I actually will award them in order, but